from the time that I was in law school, almost 15 years ago, to
Who's old
now.
now?
That's right. And I'm also very big. So we've
That's my
come full
favorite.
circle.
We
Yeah.
have.
Welcome to Legalese, a podcast by Patton and Patton. I think this is our fifth episode, but I'm losing count, so that's good. We have with us today, instead of Matt, our esteemed associate, Michelle Egbert, my big sister. Should I say older sister? Big
I mean,
sister
I
sound.
don't think big and old is really not awesome. Either one.
We'll just go with my sister. So we're going to spend the first part of today talking about her and her practice. She graduated almost 2 years ago now from UMKC Law. She's been practicing. She's completely taken over our estate planning and probate practice from me, for which I'm very grateful for. And she's much, much better at it than I am. She's a detail-oriented person, which is fantastic, and she has essentially restarted a family law practice, which our mom had as a part of Patton and Patton for a very long time. Uh, so, Michelle, why don't you introduce yourself further, and then we'll discuss your practice areas um, a bit, and then the format, of course, is we talk about the law for roughly 10 minutes, and then we talk about what is interesting to you in this case, and we talk about that for about 10 minutes. So,
Okay, cool.
go ahead.
So, as Mike said, I'm Michelle Egbert. I am married, living in Lenexa. I am the attorney who is in our Lenexa office, and I have a lovely husband and two boys. The joy of my life currently is that all of my family is now good enough at instruments to play in a band together. So that's my little personal joy at this moment.
You guys are like the miniature Von Trapp,
We're
right?
miniature Von Trapps with
Just
only
not
two
as
children, all the talent, but packed into four
that's
people.
right. That's right. As much talent as the Von Trapps with just four people involved. The That's awesome. Yeah, and it was fun to hear Ethan and Noah play at Christmas. They brought instruments. It was amazing. So, and Michelle, what is your undergrad uh, major?
I majored in music as a vocal performance major. So I spent my first career in life as a music minister, and then I stayed home with my two children. And then when it came time to go back to work, I decided to go to law school.
Tell us about that decision. I know I didn't prepare you for this question. We didn't talk about it, but I think it's interesting. So, talk about your decision to, as you re-entered the workforce, to go into the law and
Yeah.
segue into your practice areas.
So obviously, if you've been listening, you know that this is our family business law. Um, and so I'm actually the last holdout of our family of origin to join the law firm. And and I did hold out for a very long time. And the thing that shifted was a relationship I had with a friend of mine who was going through a messy divorce. She had experienced domestic abuse in ways that I had never thought of. And and she was getting screwed. She was just getting screwed. And I thought, why is this happening? Why is this injustice happening? And I didn't have any answers for her. And I thought, I've got to figure this out. And that is what drove my journey to law school. That's what drove me all the way through law school. And that's what continues to drive me today is this element of domestic abuse in family law that is fairly pervasive. It's a lot more common than anyone thinks about. And it really changes the dynamic of what happens in family law. And it's fascinating. It's interesting. I haven't figured out all the answers yet, but I'm, on my way.
Well, it's one of the great things about the law is you never truly never stop learning. I think one of the things that people maybe don't know about lawyering is we have the ability to find the answers. We don't know the answers immediately. We know a lot, when we have a lot of experience in a specific practice area, we'll
You
know some
figured
things
you
off the
figured
top
out
of
the
your head.
answers for someone before.
Right. And so one thing that Michelle is great at is researching and diving into the law and figuring out the answers uh, pretty quickly. So let's talk about that first part of your practice area, which is family law broadly. So if you're talking to someone who knows nothing about family law, what fits into that umbrella?
Yeah, it's a big umbrella. And there's a lot of elements that are siloed. So, for example, family law covers everything from adoptions, divorces, child custody matters, and then it can also bleed into things like guardianships and juvenile delinquency, things like that, even severance of parental rights. And all of those are really broad topics that family lawyers, people who do family law, practice. My personal practice focuses on divorce or dissolution of marriage, as it's called in Kansas, on child custody modifications, on paternity actions or parentage actions, because sometimes you have to determine if mom is mom. And so those are the areas that I practice in, and and I may eventually expand into other practices, but that's where I am now, and that's where I'm focusing now. And the other thing that is under that umbrella is protection from abuse orders. That's a very immediate area of law, and also not something I'm doing now. I'm in this niche area of basically how I could help my friend who is a mom, who is just getting a divorce, has kids, and needs to find her way through the law, which is hard. And family law is in a unique area of law because it is it is applied to people who are incredibly diverse. And that's the thing about family law is that it is designed in some respects to apply to a first marriage with a couple of kids and where all the dynamics are fairly normal, where you're not dealing with mental illness, where you're not dealing with narcissism. And on the other side, family law is set up to be flexible because no family is the same, just as no individual is the same, no family is the same. And so family law is set up with things like the best interest of the child factors, which is a list of about 9 different factors that a judge can basically choose from when they're making a decision and decide what is important in this particular circumstance. So it's a combination of laws that are imperfectly created and then judges who are given a whole lot of discretion to craft something for this individual family. And as a result, it's very hard to predict. The other thing that goes into law in general, the way laws are created, is there's the legislature who creates a law, and that's in statute. And then there's also the element of case law that comes into family law, and that is created at the appellate level. When somebody appeals a law, then it is clarified at the appellate level. And most family law clients don't have enough money to appeal a decision. And so there's not a lot of appellate law that exists in family law. And so that makes it very hard to predict, and it makes it very much in the hands of the district court judges. Now, we have really great district court judges, both in Johnson County and in Shawnee County, and they are paying a lot of attention. And in my experience, they're doing a great job. However, if you do get in a place where a judge misses something, then that can make a big, big difference in the way your case turns out from maybe the way that your neighbor's case turned out.
Yeah, yeah, it it is exactly like you said, and that has resulted in, from my perspective, um, from the time that I was in law school, almost 15 years ago, to
Who's old
now.
now?
That's right. And I'm also very big, so we've
That's my
come full
favorite.
circle.
We
Yeah.
have.
The is that be the judicial discretion is has aspects of it that is kind of a feature because it's allowed the law to adjust to really what I would consider the the psychological knowledge. Like we know
Mm,
more things about family dynamics and what's healthy and what's not in some ways from an objective perspective that we maybe didn't in the 70s or
mhm.
the 80s or uh, more recently. And not being disparaging about that, but we have objective studies on, well, this is what happens in to a child through the course of that. Does that come into play at all from your
Oh,
perspective as a practitioner?
absolutely, absolutely. And and you mentioned, the effect on a child. I think most practitioners, and this is just an opinion, I don't have any, statistics to back it up, but in the people that I've talked to who practice in this area, the judges that I talk to who practice in this area, they're in it to protect the kids as much as possible in a dynamic that is just so hard. It is so hard. Um, Even if both parents are trying so hard to protect kids, kids get damaged when parents get divorced. And so that's really why we do what we do, is to try to navigate a very difficult space and make sure that the kids are affected as little as possible and that they're able to thrive and come out on the other side.
And and that, we watch you pursuing justice for those kids in a situation that's it's just not ideal. It's less than ideal. It's not what anybody wanted to going into a
Not what
marriage per se.
anybody signs
Yeah,
up for. Yeah.
yeah. So, well, thank you for your work in that space, and we've already been able to see you making a difference in people's lives in a difficult space. So,
Thank
so well, let's wrap up the on that note. We'll end the discussion on that and ask you, what have you been thinking about lately? That's Matt's question for the second half of the podcast. What has been catching your attention or interest in the last week or weekend or whatever?
you.
And we haven't rehearsed this. I have no idea
Related
what she's going to say.
related to like family law?
Uh, Specifically, it's the non-legal portion of legalese.
Oh,
So,
the non-legal portion.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay. Um, the thing that is catching my eye is is a world that is divided.
yeah, yeah,
I read a morning email blurb that is put out by the New York Times. And it's just a little highlight of things that are happening in the world. And and an interesting thing that has occurred in I don't think this is news to anyone. Everybody knows that the world is divided. We go Republican and Democrat. We go liberal and conservative. We go religious and non-religious. And there's so much information out there that is siloed in those individual categories. And something that I've been thinking a lot about, and even as it relates to law, I'm not supposed to relate this to law, but I see it a lot is you're dealing with silos of information that never intersect. Nobody ever has a conversation about, well, this is the information that I got from this source, and this is the information that I got from this source. And let's compare and let's see what makes sense. And let's talk about the different issues that are going through our minds. There are things we care about. And I have a neighbor friend of mine who, on all of those issues, is literally the opposite of mine. But I love her so much, and I think she loves me. She keeps hanging out with me, uh, and and so been able to be safe enough in our relationship to share our differing ideas. And what we have come up with is that in that sharing, we find more commonalities than we ever thought we would. And we're finding that, um, my source is drawing from this piece and her source is drawing from this piece. And they're both kind of missing it. They're both not quite the truth, but when put together, you can piece together truth. And so that's something that I am really striving for in my life is being able to have hard conversations with people and allowing them to be who they are, to care about the things that they care about, and also learn something, be open to learning something new, I guess is the takeaway is that non-divisive conversation.
Yeah, it takes a lot of humility to have those kinds of conversations at all, because it's hard to if you're not in a being humble, it you can't listen to
Yeah.
someone.
No. Mhm.
You're just talking, and and I am a lawyer, very guilty of just I'm gonna talk and say what
Make
I
my
think.
points and I'm gonna
Yeah,
argue my case, and my case is stronger than yours.
yeah, yeah. It's the uh reminds me of one of the seven habits of highly effective people is seek first uh to understand. So seek first
Mm.
to understand, and then you can talk. And then Arthur Brooks always says, present your ideas like a bouquet. You're not a hammer. You're not presenting your ideas as a hammer. You're presenting like, can I share this with you?
Oh,
And then that's a more effective way.
that's
It,
beautiful. I like
but
that.
it, but yeah, I think it's on it. It's on. We've talked about that on this show before. Just
Oh, yes.
the divisiveness that's currently in the U.S. And it's got to be on everyone else's mind too. And it just feels like there's no possible solution to it.
Mm.
Uh, it's encouraging that you and a neighbor have, instead of just being buried behind your respective political signs, actually engage in a relationship. And yeah, that that's that is cool. So,
Yes.
well, I think we're at about 20 minutes.
Awesome.
So
We did it.
usually Matt's the one that kind of signals that we're cutting it off. So,
So he has to, does he have to shut you up normally? Stop waxing eloquent, Mike?
oh, he would never do that.
That's a big sister's job.
That's right. But well, thank you very much, and thank you for the work you do for families and the firm. It's incredible to watch, and we're grateful for it. So thank
Well,
you.
thank you.